This calories in, calories out model doesn't work at all. If you're trying to lose weight, what you need to do is...
What's going on YouTube, it's Jason, and in this video I'm going to be reacting to the Diary of a CEO episode on intermittent fasting with Dr. Jason Fung. Now, for those of you who don't know who Dr. Fung is, he is a leading doctor and researcher on intermittent fasting with a specific focus on obesity. What I'm going to do is go through this episode, not the entire thing, it is an hour and 24 minutes long, but I want to go through the main points and weigh it against the current body of scientific research, as well as my own experience having been obese and worked with hundreds of obese clients in the past.
That's why you're taking in more calories, or you're storing more calories, is because your body has hormones that tell you to store calories. So there's a hormone called insulin, for example, and if you give people insulin, so inject them with insulin, which is a drug for type 2 diabetes, almost everybody gains weight. So if you give somebody insulin, they gain weight. If I gave you insulin, you would gain weight.
So number one, insulin causes weight gain. Now, this is a popular idea on social media at the moment, particularly among people that are pushing intermittent fasting and keto. And it is backed by scientific research to a degree, but it is nuanced. The first thing is that it appears from research that the insulin that is injected is processed differently by the body than naturally occurring insulin. The reason I say this is because if we assert that all insulin makes you fat, then every human being, whether injected or naturally occurring, has insulin in their body. Therefore, why aren't we all obese? There's only a third of us that are obese in the UK, and obviously greater numbers in places like the US, but there are people with insulin in their bodies that are not obese, and so therefore it can't just be the insulin making people overweight. The second thing is that the weight gain effect of insulin seems to disproportionately affect those with type 2 diabetes versus type 1. Now, for those of you who don't know the difference, type 1 diabetes is inherited and type 2 tends to be because of your lifestyle choices. And so if insulin on its own caused weight gain, why aren't the type 1 diabetics gaining as much weight? Maybe because there are other factors like excess glucose in the type 2 diabetics' blood, and perhaps calorie intake. So going by the evidence, we can't say that insulin on its own causes weight gain. We can say that it could have an effect, but from the body of evidence, it appears that it's a very small effect.
But you have to ask yourself, why are people eating so many calories, right? Well, it's because they're hungry. You can't choose to be less hungry.
Someone becomes obese because they are hungry, and you cannot control when you are hungry. Now, I agree with this to a point in that, yes, hunger is outside our control, but we are making the massive assumption here that people just eat because they're hungry, which in my experience isn't true. People eat for all sorts of reasons. Yes, one is hunger, another is boredom, another is fatigue, another is stress, another is anger. People eat for all sorts of reasons, and so the reason a person is obese, in my experience, in the majority of cases, is because they don't know how to identify what is genuine hunger. They might get like 10 hunger pangs, 6 might be genuine, 4 might be other, and they will satisfy all 10 as though all 10 are genuine. That's the bit we're often missing out of this equation.
If you take two different foods, equal number of calories, and you eat them, the hormonal response to those calories are completely different.
I do agree with this point. There is a wealth of scientific evidence to show that different foods have different hormonal responses on our bodies.
So you eat 2 slices of white bread and jam. All that energy, so insulin spikes up because it's very high in refined carbohydrates. All that energy goes straight into your body fat, and you've left none of it for energy for your day.
This is when we push it too far. Using Dr. Fung's example, if a person were to have 2 slices of white bread and jam, yes, that food would spike insulin and it would go into their fat stores. But if that's all they ate all day, their body will go back for that fat store for energy because that person was under eating. And so we push this so far as though these insulin spiking foods cause fat gain. They're stored as body fat temporarily, but ultimately whether or not you store body fat long term will be determined by calorie balance, what you intake versus what you burn.
Body fat is nothing more or less than a store of energy.
This is what I mean. We're going around the houses and dancing around the issue, but body fat, as Dr. Fung said, is nothing more or nothing less than a store of energy. And so this quote-unquote oversimplification of calories in versus calories out, well, that's how your body works, right? You are storing too much energy. We are trying to get you to store less energy. Calorie balance should be the primary strategy for that.
You call it a deception. You say in part 2 of your book, you say the calorie deception.
Yeah.
And you say there are 5 wrong assumptions about obesity and weight loss. The calorie in, calorie out are independent of each other, so won't trigger one another.
Calories in versus calories out is not a deception. As Dr. Fung said himself, body fat is nothing more or nothing less than a store of energy or calories.
So this idea that just eat fewer calories will automatically lead to weight loss is completely false, because we know that eating fewer calories leads also to burning fewer calories. So you eat 500 less, your body burns 500 less, and you're not losing any body weight.
Again, yes, this is true. What Dr. Fung is speaking about here is something called metabolic adaptation. If somebody was 80 kilos and they lost 10 kilos, they would be a smaller person, therefore wouldn't require as much energy. So the body would adapt to your new weight and you'll be burning fewer calories at rest. But what Dr. Fung is not pointing out is that this happens no matter what diet you follow. Whether you follow intermittent fasting or you eat normally or keto or anything else, if you lose body mass, your body will adapt to your new weight. So let's not get this twisted and make it like your magic way of eating is going to make you avoid metabolic adaptation, because it won't.
Why can't you burn the fat that's on your body? Because there's 200, 300,000 calories of body fat. Why can't you access it? It's because you haven't activated the right hormones so that you can access it. So now if you do intermittent fasting, you eat 1500 calories, you take 500 calories out, your body's burning 2000. Now all of a sudden, if you go off your diet and you go back to 2000 calories, guess what? You don't gain weight, you don't lose.
Yep, here we go, the intermittent fasting plug. Even if you ate foods that were friendly to insulin and didn't spike them, if you overate them, you would still gain weight. So we should be focusing on how much of that insulin spiking or non-insulin spiking food that we are consuming.
The other problem with exercise is that it tends to actually cause you to eat more.
Yes, exercise does cause you to eat more, but it also allows you to improve your body composition, build more muscle, and also burn more calories at rest. So I give the example all the time. Let's say you have 2 people that need 2,500 calories to maintain their body weight. If somebody ate 2,500 and burnt 500 calories, they would achieve a better body composition than someone just eating 2,000 calories. Yes, they are both in a 500 calorie deficit or net 2,000, but the person eating 2,500 calories, if they were resistance training, would build more muscle, and eventually they might be burning like 2,006 or 2,700 calories at rest. And so long term, eating more in and of itself is not the issue, but rather how that balances out with how much you burn.
By 10:30, now you're ravenous and you go get yourself a low-fat muffin. Again, pure carbs, insulin spikes up, all of that goes straight into your fat stores. Why? Because you told it to.
Yes, insulin spikes and you feel hungry again at 10:30. That's true, but it's also because what you've eaten is likely of poor nutritional quality. If you ate something that spiked insulin, for example, a big carbohydrate meal would spike insulin, whether it's whole grain or not, but the whole grain carbohydrate would have fiber in, and so you would feel fuller for longer. We shouldn't oversimplify somebody being hungry or not hungry just based on an insulin spike.
If you want to lose body fat, you actually need to extend the period of time that you're not eating. In other words, extend your fasting period and get rid of all the snacks in order for you to have enough time that your insulin is low. When insulin is low, it's going to allow fat burning, which is going to allow you to pull those calories back out.
Extending the amount of time that you're not eating is still secondary to caloric balance. The way I always put it to my clients is that if you want to deposit £100 into your current account, you can be like, I want to deposit it at 2 p.m. Someone else would be like, no, I must deposit it at 10 a.m. By the close of business, if that figure was £100, the account balance would be the same the next day. I'm not speaking here about an interest-bearing account. I'm speaking about a standard account that bears no interest. £100 is £100 no matter when in the day you deposit it. As I mentioned with calories, nutrition quality does make a difference, but weight loss is not about the timing of your breakfast, but about what happens and what you consume throughout the day until the evening. When you go to bed at night, what you've consumed throughout the day versus what you've burned will depend on what happens to your body.
And measure how many calories they're burning, their basal metabolic rate on day 0 before the fast, and measure them 4 days into the fast and see how many calories you're burning. So on day 0, they say you're burning, say, 2,000 calories a day. On day 4 of 0 food, you don't eat any food for 4 days. They measure how much calories you're burning. Your body is burning 2,200 calories.
So I hear this a lot, that when a person does intermittent fasting, their metabolism gets sped up. This is a very short term and a temporary response to going without food. Your body is reacting to not having food and having to go into your fat cells for energy. And this can have a knock-on effect temporarily on your metabolism. This hasn't been proven over time, and my guesses are, based on the wealth of scientific research, that if you were to measure someone's metabolism a year later, I mean, they probably wouldn't be alive after a year of fasting, but if you were to measure someone's metabolism, let's say like 3 months later, they wouldn't have a faster metabolism. Otherwise, this would just increase their chances of death. And as I mentioned, if you lose body mass, your metabolism would drop anyway. And so that temporary spike in metabolism from fasting would eventually be cancelled out.
Maybe they knew more about what they were talking about, and science is just catching up and saying, oh, this process of autophagy that you activate with fasting, this could be really important for longevity.
Autophagy is the natural cleansing of the body that happens when we fast. It helps the body to regenerate its cells, which can help us fight disease and infection. The issue with this is that people often cite this as a benefit exclusively linked to fasting. It's not. You can promote autophagy a number of ways. Number 1 is calorie restriction. Reducing your calories has been shown to promote autophagy. Number 2 is exercise. Resistance training, again, has been shown to boost this. And number 3 is kind of indirect, but people that are sleep deprived have been shown to reduce autophagy. And so if someone is sleeping well, I'm not necessarily saying that it increases autophagy, but it allows it to function properly.
When we talk about calories on this show, sometimes I think the people that get quite offended tend to be personal trainers, because I think they would say they've got case studies of telling one of their clients to monitor their calories, and they saw a reduction in weight. So for them, that means it works. This calories in, calories out model.
It is that, but it's a simplistic understanding.
Before I wrap things up, I just wanted to apologize for absolutely butchering Dr. Fang's name. His name is Dr. Fang. I've been calling him Dr. Fung. My bad. Sorry, pal. On the last point, I do agree with him that we are oversimplifying calories in versus calories out. I always tell my clients that telling someone who's obese that they need to eat less and move more is as helpful as telling someone poor that to get rich, they just need to save more. It is true, we can't deny the truth in it. All the scientific studies do speak about calories in versus calories out, but how that looks and how it's implemented and the strategy is where you need to address the nuance. I do feel that intermittent fasting is a tool that can work for some people, but I would say probably won't work for most. It hasn't got exclusive benefits, and for normal everyday life, it's quite impractical, coupled with the fact that it is another diet. Let's not lie, if you're obese, you've been through your fair share of diets, whether it's keto or Atkins or any of these other diets. You've been dieting all your life. What you don't need is another diet. You need a solution, something that is anti-diet. One of the stats I keep on telling people is that 97% of all weight loss is regained. And so it becomes more likely that you would join this statistic if you join another diet. Just my tuppence, I thought I'd go through this. I know it's long, but believe me, if you watch the original clip, it's like an hour and 24 minutes long. So I tried to condense it as much as I can. Don't forget to like this video if you found it helpful. Comment below, let me know your thoughts. Do you like intermittent fasting? Did it work for you? I'm joking, did it work for you? Did it not? Let me know in the comments. Please subscribe to see more videos like this, and I will see you again soon.